What am I to do?
Welcome to He Said, She Said Razor Branding Podcast with Michael Russo and Jaci Russo. To learn more about how to improve your brand, visit brandRUSSO.com.
Michael, today I'm so excited to have Cairo Marsh with us. He's the founder and executive partner of Relativ. He balances his time between New York and Asia. He spends quite a bit of time in Japan. And as he told us in the conversation, the way he navigates two very different cultures, the way he's able to acquire clients and handle marketing in such different areas, it is fascinating.
I agree. No, he was delightful. You always know when you get to the end of the hour and it's like, okay, that blew by really quickly. And then I still have more questions. I was like, right. Oh, I want to ask about this because he's one of those guys who has answers, and they're not like he read them in a book. They're his own thoughts. And I think that's an important difference,
Well, they're his lived experiences because he's been an entrepreneur. He's a marketing expert. He's a world traveler. And because he's done the hard work, he knows the answers to the questions.
Yeah. It reminds me, we talk a lot about authenticity these days. I think he's the definition of that.
He is the real deal for sure. So I think everyone's going to enjoy him. Y'all listen.
You do that differently every time. I don't know.
Do you want me to do it the same every time?
I don't know. We got to figure something out because
Why?
You just stop and I don't know where we go from that.
Well, since I now know that you never edit any of this stuff out, people will know what they should do is keep listening because Cairo is smart. Cairo, welcome to the show.
Jaci, Michael, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for being here. So
phone.
You're kind of a world traveler. I just want to start with, where are you actually sitting right now? Where are we reaching you?
Right now, I'm literally in New York, but I split time between New York and Tokyo mainly, though we also have an office in Taipei. So recently I've been getting to Taipei a little bit.
Nice.
Oh my gosh. I felt very worldly just because I'd been to Italy and you're off doing big stuff. So that journey, from the Bronx to Tokyo, how have those two places kind of shaped your approach to marketing? Because from what I've seen, geographically, they are very different in how they approach marketing and advertising.
Sure. Two things. I've never been to Italy, so you're up on me. So you win, I lose. But as it applies to the Bronx and Tokyo, honestly, it's really weird, and this won't make a lot of sense except to me. But I find a lot of similarities in terms of how they've shaped my approach on marketing. Obviously they're very different energy, I'm born and raised in the Bronx. I grew up in the Bronx back in the 70s and 80s when it was a bit
the Bronx.
wilder than it. Yeah, back when they were doing the Warriors come out and play kind of thing. that era of New York, right?
Nice throwback. That's a very nice reference.
but it's definitely nicer now. But I think the thing that the thing that drives my point of view on marketing really has to do with sort of connection, closeness, and community, right? And even growing up in the Bronx back then, I reference this a lot. Like my grandfather used to have his own little small luncheonette and a little dry cleaner that I used to work in. And when you work in those are my formative experiences to understanding how work and business is done. It's all about servicing customers, treating people with respect. It's all about that repeat sort of connection. Now, so when I think about work and business, that's a Bronx story that really formed my approach and thinking. Japan is all that, right? So Japan has a value they call omotenashi, which is all about hospitality and how do you treat others. And it's a culture that's predicated on, the customer comes first and how do you service people, et cetera. So fundamentally, it's really weird. I think Japan didn't teach me certain values, but it lines up with values that I think I was taught by my grandfather and my family, et cetera, how you should work with people and others.
Right. So how did you end up in Tokyo? I mean, you just woke up one day and thought, I'll fly halfway around the world.
Almost. I think, no, seriously, I think again, I'm from New York, never really left New York. I was 26 when I first caught a plane. It was super exciting. I went to California. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's crazy. It's a dream. And so I've always been rooted here in New York. There was a point though when I really got a sense of wanderlust, and I spent 3 months in Peru, right? And I love Peru. Peru was incredible, and I could have stayed there longer. Ended up coming back for family reasons, but But coming back out of that, I really felt the need that I really want to live overseas. That little taste of doing 3 months, not just a vacation, a week here or whatever there, but spending 3 months where you've got your local coffee guy and your local restaurant where you feel part of the community, that really sort of lit that fire in me that I really wanted to have that experience. And then so probably a few years after that, so 3 or 4 years after I came back from Peru, I sort of hit a plateau with my job in New York. I felt like I wasn't going to grow in a career way for a couple of years. So it's a good opportunity to grow in a personal way. And I had some friends out in Japan. I had come out to Japan for a friend's wedding a couple of years prior. Thought it was super interesting, a bit fascinating. And I decided I got nothing to lose. I'll go out there on a tourist visa and see if I could latch on. And I kind of did.
That's impressive. Michael has always felt like the combination of working at a restaurant, whether it's waiting tables or
Mm,
bartending, and being in marketing, there's a lot of shared skill sets there. And I think it's fascinating
absolutely.
that you have found a way to take a dry cleaner experience in your youth and do the same thing. Because I think we serve the community better when we have jobs where we serve the community.
Yeah, yeah. I think customer service is everything. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter whether you're working in a dry cleaner or a restaurant or bodega or wherever you are. It's really about how do you treat your audience properly, make sure you're servicing their needs first, and then getting them to come back in a way that creates that sort of reciprocal business value. I think
Right.
that's just the nature of business. I do think in advertising and marketing, the restaurant analogy is really good. Like I once had one of my old CEOs when I was working in New York said, "Look, if you're an account person, you're like the waiter. You're the person on the front lines. You kind of get all the shit when thing goes wrong. It's like the chef's fault or someone else screwed it up, but you're on that front line and you have to make it all work." He also said these words to me, which I never forgot, and I wish I could say it as eloquently or in the context that he did. He's like, "But there's no other job you'd rather have." Because you're the person this thing runs on. No matter how good the food is or bad the food is, if you're that person on waiting on those tables, you can make so much happen. And so even though there's a lot of pressure in being that, there's a lot of opportunity. And that's equivalent to being an account person in an agency, or whatever. It's really about pulling the whole organization together to serve.
Well, I think that's, and just hearing you talk and reading a little bit about your bio there too, how much our industry has changed, how much business has changed over the past many years, and not just with technology, but how we're doing things. Like we have a thing called Razor Branding. It's a really long process where we kind of dig deep. We find out competitor, analysis. We understand the audiences. We dig into the profiles of the people themselves. Really kind of learn about that. And when we come away with that, half of it is marketing and half of it is so internal. And when we talk about,
Hmm.
treating customer right and things like that, we end up being I don't know, psychologists in a way that we're going in and helping people
Absolutely.
understand things better from outside looking in. It's so hard to see things from in a bubble, but it's no longer just, hey, I'm going to run an ad that's going to save the world, which I hate that because I love ads, but it's more than that now. You can't just message somebody to death, or make them believe something. They're going to eventually decide on your brand equity. Like, are you worth a damn? How do I feel about you? What's
Yeah.
my emotional connection? And that doesn't come from a print ad or a social media post or anything like that. It's about more than that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things that I think is really true is that, especially today in the complexities of advertising, I think it's really interesting. I don't think advertising has gotten better. It's definitely gotten more complex though, right? Because we have channels, data, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the key thing I think in the complexity of advertising is that how the brand actually lives is what really shapes the consumer's perception. How do you interact with them, not at this touch point or that touch point, but consistently through touch points? Who does the brand serve? What does the brand do in the community? How do people actually visualize that? Like nowadays, I think if I'm shopping for a product and I see a performance marketing ad and great, right timing, whatever, click buy, absolutely, that works. But in terms of really shaping real preference and really shaping that sort of proactive sort of engagement, I think it is going way beyond the ad to really planning out that experience.
And it's so hard to make people buy into that too. I mean, we have really good clients, and retainer, been with them for years, and we buy into that, and all of a sudden, 6 months down or a year in, I'm looking up and I'm going, man, we are doing everything we're not supposed to be doing, because you have to, all of a sudden you're in survival mode, and well, we got to talk about this, we got to talk about this, we got to talk about this, and all of a sudden we become more
Yeah,
communications company versus an advertising company or branding company, and yeah, like you said, you need those things. Those things do work, but you have to spend time on the nurturing side too, and it's just
100%.
but it's such an effort,
100%. But I always believe, and I tell my guys this all the time. I don't expect to win battles. Like I don't expect like if you're a brand manager inside of a large corporations, the pressures you're feeling from your CFO, your CMO, I'm not living that, right? And so of course they need to make some decisions that maybe I don't completely agree with, or I think is a little short-sighted, or I have a certain point of view on, but I'm not living their experience. What we offer is not that they're going to do what we say, but we're going to continue to challenge what they think and continue to, maybe we move them an inch. Maybe it's not that full foot or the full mile they need to go, but you get little incremental wins by being, as you just said, Michael, outside of their bubble. That may only move the needle an inch. But our job, I think, fundamentally, is not to win battles, but to fight them. Do you know what I mean? And we fight them on behalf of the consumer. We fight them on behalf of what we think is right for the business. And of course, we compromise and we follow as we must because that's the nature of business. And again, there's different things that we on the agency side may not understand. But so long as we do our job, which is to fight that fight,
Man, Cairo, I so needed to hear that today. I mean, that's like, I need to print that out and put it on my wall. That re-inspired me because, you get
Yeah,
beat down sometimes, and how do you
yeah,
keep
absolutely.
the fight going? But I love that analogy. That's really poignant.
Absolutely. Thank
So
you.
we're part podcast and part therapy for Michael.
I know.
I'll
I
send you a
think I
check.
think in this Yeah, I think in this industry, all of us need a little bit of therapy, right? Because there
Oh, a
are those
lot.
days where you go like, what am I doing it for? I came up with this brilliant thing that turned into whatever. And we all need a little therapy every now and again.
Yeah.
Got to listen to the people that know, and you're right. It's, again, you're reminding me of that though. And Jackie's a lot more, she's more glass half full than I am on things. And,
Mm,
so, I'll come to her with, it's not this and that and this and that. And, it's never ideal, but the best relationships we have are with people that don't just do what we say, but they participate in the conversation, and
absolutely.
and there's that back and forth, and they allow us to have our wins, and we know when to step up and fight. Jackie has like this 3-rule policy, and we'll go back. If they say no to something we're recommending, we'll go back once and then twice, and we'll explain it, and then the third time we're like, all right, look, you're paying the bills. We're gonna do what you say, and we're
Yeah.
gonna try to do the best we can. But we can only fight so much, until we have to kind of throw in the towel a little bit and acquiesce.
No, 100%. Like I think as an agency, what I really want from clients is to be considered, to be heard. Like I think we're brought in for our expertise, right? We're brought in for our passion, for our knowledge, for our skill set. You want that to have an audience. I don't think it's not our money, so we don't get to make the rules, right? So whoever's paying gets to make the final call, and that's cool. But I think the legitimacy of our point of view is still important that it gets heard. And then obviously we respect when clients go, look, that's not what we need right now for a variety of different reasons. And I've had clients tell me, I had a client tell me, and I'm like, I'm arguing with them back and forth, but this is the right thing. And this client's super bright. I know they understand what I'm talking about. And they're like, yeah, I get it, but we just can't do it. This is not what the bosses want. I
Yeah.
said, okay, I respect that, right? Because that's reality. I can sit here and tell you whatever things I want, but there's a different strategic priority within the organization. It is what it is, you know?
Yeah, and I talk to a lot of colleges. I'll do lecture series or whatever, and I tell students, I'm like, what I've learned is, especially from the creative side, if you're in this, if your teacher's telling you, or if you're in this to be an artist, I said you're probably in the wrong field, because artists, when you do art, it's emotional and you're tied to it, and it's
Yeah.
hard when people critique your work. But in this business, that's part of the game. You get everybody from your account representative to the marketing director to the owners to somebody walking down the hall. Everybody's got an opinion about advertising.
Yeah.
Everybody. And so if you don't have a thick skin, and I say all that, I have a very non-thick skin sometimes.
Non-thick, very not thick.
Well,
Yeah.
but you want to be emotionally attached to the work too, and when it doesn't go your way, it can be brutal, to kind of, it's like, it's not that I want to be right. I just think that what I am doing is right. You know what I'm saying? There's a balance in that.
Of course.
It's like, hey, I want you to trust this. This is going to be good. You're not hearing it, that kind of thing. So that's the frustrating part. But yeah, it's an emotional roller coaster sometimes.
Yeah, I could definitely get that. And I think certainly, Michael, you being more on the creative side, it's almost even more that. Like, I'm a little bit more on the strategy and the client management side in terms of my background. But yeah, I think that's absolutely true. The other thing that I really try to do is I try to impress myself. Like, I know and I'm sure you guys have been in the same exact situation. I've done some great work that I think this is brilliant. This is a game changer. And clients have been like, nah, we don't want it. And then, what? Like, you know what I mean? But do you not realize the magnitude of genius that's here? And they're just like, yeah, that's not it. That's not it. We don't want it. And other times I've done some things that I think are exceedingly mediocre, not on purpose because, we didn't have time or whatever. You're like, well, that's the best we could do. And they're like, good. And they run with it and everyone's happy. You did such a great job. And I'm like, that is not great work. And so, but my point is that it's okay. I think you always have to fight for great work. I think you have to understand that what I take pride in is when I impress myself. If clients go, that's great, we love it, but I'm like, I know I can make that a little bit better, then I'm going to live with that I still have to get better at that. If I do something that's brilliant, but for whatever reason didn't fit the brief, the need, the situation at the time, I'm not going to knock myself because clients didn't accept it or someone didn't accept it. I go, okay, it didn't fit, but I still feel good about the work that I did. And I think and to me, as you're saying, Michael, that's the artistry of it, right? That's the art of it. Like you as an artist, you're expressing things that matter and that are important. At the same time, it doesn't mean that everybody comes to the gallery is going to get it,
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Mm-hmm. How is the language side for you? Obviously, I mean, you're fluent now in Japanese. Is that the language, or are you?
Well, that is the language that is spoken in Japan. I can communicate in Japanese. I am far from fluent, though. I mean, think like junior, like in high school junior Spanish kind of thing. Like I can survive in Japanese. Do basic things, whatever needs to be done, whether that's going to a restaurant or going to the bank and facilitating basic things. But I'm not going to sit there and have a debate with someone around whether Kant or some other philosopher made more sense in Japanese. Like it's just beyond me.
Well, I know it more than the language even. I think the culture is different. My dad did international sales for a long time, and he would tell stories like he would go to China, and he spent a lot of time in China, and there was so many traditions. Like you always brought a gift there, and it was like little trinket things, like little bottles of hot sauce or whatever, and it was like you exchanged gifts. And some people came from his company over, and they thought they would be impressive, and they brought like nice watches and Rolex watches or something like that. And the Japanese people had like these little. The Chinese people had these little trinket things, and they were offended, like big time. And they actually walked out of the room, and they didn't know why. They were like, "Why are they upset?" And he was like, "Well, you didn't understand the custom
showed
there."
Them up.
Showed him
Made
up.
Them look bad.
And but I thought it was a great lesson. It was like, you know who you're talking to. I mean, don't your belief system and your core identity may be different than the person across the table. And so open up to the possibilities there.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think working in a different culture, that's one of the things that really appealed to me about Japan, because, having been in New York, and I, worked for 15 years in New York and was pretty successful in agencies here. You go to Japan, most of those tricks don't work. Like in New York, you go, you do a presentation, you try to be the funniest person in the room, you entertain, you do your little shtick. Nobody in Japan cares. You go up there and you start cracking jokes, everyone's deadpan. Oh. And you're sitting there like, what's going on? Like where's I'm trying to charm people. That's my gift. And like, none of that works. And so all these little tools that you had in your toolbox, that were cultural tools, which you didn't realize that they were cultural tools, are no longer available to you once you work outside of that. And for me, that was an interesting sort of question to myself that says, how how will I succeed in Japan without those? Can I succeed in Japan without those? How do I compensate for the lack of those? And just learning how to navigate that, learning how to read body language, and the body language is different. Well, I don't know if they're happy or sad right now. I don't. What am I doing? And that was a great opportunity. Just learn more about humanity, to be honest, because we have a one-sided view that's through the American cultural or Western cultural lens.
That is fascinating. I can only imagine how challenging that is because I too feel like I win most things based on my wit and charm. That would be devastating to not have those tools in my toolkit anymore. If I can't
Yeah.
get by on my sarcasm,
And
who
inappropriate
am I?
jokes. Yeah.
And inappropriate jokes, especially the inappropriate jokes. Who am I?
No, absolutely. Like,
Cairo, I think we
absolutely.
can hang out.
Yeah. But once they start taking those things away, it's really interesting to go, what else do I have?
Right.
You know, what else do I have? Am I only fit for this? Am I good? Or am I only fit for this particular marketplace or culture? You know?
Right. Oh, that's tough. Curious, in our industry, awards, Addies and Tellies and Grammys, oh my. Where are you on the industry discussion right now? Because, we kind of drew a line in the sand about 2008 and said, we're just not entering those contests anymore. And every once in a while, some members of my creative team are like, but we like to win things. And so I've seen a shift in the industry where less and less people are kind of focusing on the awards. Where do you fall on the spectrum of that?
Personally, like I feel conflicted, right? I think that as a agency, so our agency is 10 years old now, you know, and we are still always trying to be credible, especially when you compete in Japan, where there's agencies like Dentsu or Hakuhodo, or these behemoths with tens of thousands of employees, or even the large multinationals. And as we're trying to grow our business here in the US or in Taipei, it's really about how do you create credibility and recognition when you walk through the door. And so I believe that reward awards, they have a place when we can go in, okay, you've never heard of us, but by the way, we've won or we've been recognized by these different bodies of competitions that you have heard of. I think that's to a degree important for us as we try to build and establish our sort of footprint and credibility and grow. Generally, though, I think that a lot of the awards, and we all know this in this industry, is that a lot of the awards are for work that's really not meaningful work, and it's not things that I think really have real merit to clients. And I don't think that, like, again, I think clients sometimes care about, oh, you're credible. But I think clients also know that they don't pay attention to the awards and who gets this and who gets that, because it's an inside industry conversation. We're all patting each other on the back saying, look how great we are for things that we just made up to get an award. So I think I wish awards were a little bit more grounded in work and reality. I think the credibility is important, but I think in some cases, I think we all know, both in the industry and our clients know, that they're not always grounded in what the work output was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would hate that somebody would come in, especially back in the print days when we printed things. They had a business card and it was made out of this hand woven Tibetan lamb's wool, whatever.
Right.
And it was like this crazy, and I spent all this money on it and it looked really nice. But I'm like, did that get you more clients? Were you more successful with, I don't know. I mean, if you're a textile person or something, maybe, there's something to be said for good quality paper, but at the same time, like, are you being a good steward of your client as well? So that was my question always. It was like, are you in it for the award or to get them more business? Because I take that very seriously. People give me money for things.
Exactly.
I want to deliver back to them something. Because a lot of times marketing, people are spending, no matter what side, I found that too. The bigger we've gotten, the bigger clients we've had, they all have budgets and they all are tight. They're just bigger. But the need's bigger and the want's bigger and the need for results is bigger. And so if you don't take that seriously and you're just taking the check, then it's like, man, what are you doing? It's almost
No,
criminal.
absolutely.
So
Absolutely. We're here to deliver results. Fundamentally, as an industry. One of the things, though, I do think, one of the things that I'm really into right now is sort of understanding incentive structures and how incentive structures lead to bad behaviors, right? And that happens in all levels of our global economy, which is something that fascinates me. But particularly within our industry, though, I do think there are incentive structures within our industry that focus on awards and how we appear, versus on the quality of the work. So we can all agree here that doing great work is the only thing that really matters. Delivering for our clients and delivering results are the only thing that matters. But in certain cases, when you engage with clients, new clients, procurement teams, et cetera, sometimes the incentive structure leads you to go, well, what are your awards? What are your different things that make you sort of credible? So the incentive structure sometimes from the industry and not just from agencies, but from our client partners sort of promote this sort of, I think, unproductive sort of behavior where we focus on superficial things. But it's not just because of the agencies. I think it is in part because of there's an incentive structure from our clients that sometimes drive us that way.
What do you think is the perfect incentive structure? How does it work?
I don't know. Like I'll be really honest. I had a conversation with a potential client a few months back, right? And this client was working in a innovation space where they needed to come up with brand new sort of experiential ideas that would help drive conversion, et cetera, et cetera. And they're like, hey, we really think you guys as an agency would be super good for that. I'm like, fantastic. That'd be super awesome. And they're like, well, but the problem is how we don't know what the ideas are yet or what will come out of it. So how do we pay you for that? I don't want to pay a flat rate just to get, I'm not paying for hours, I'm paying for outcomes. Yeah, I'm like, fantastic. Here's what we do. You pay us like 30% for of our time. So we'll put in whatever. We'll just pay us a little bit so that we know there's some skin in the game.
Yeah.
But don't pay us. Yeah, don't pay us at all for anything else above that unless we deliver things that are verifiable that can go to market and make a difference for your customer. And we can agree on how to verify that. And they were like, yeah, this is fantastic. And then they went to their finance and procurement team. They're like, oh, we don't know how to benchmark that. We can't accept that proposal because we want to know what the average rate card is for the art director versus for this guys versus those guys. And so the incentive structure is to have a cheap art director, not to do game building, not to do business building work. I think the right way, I think is to go, okay, great. Let's align around the outcomes that we get. Let's make sure that we can at least afford to support you. But beyond that, if we're not delivering value, I'll take that risk every time because that's our job and give us access to that. But I think, again, I think there's barriers to that for lots of different reasons. So, for example, and I'm not trying to knock anybody in procurement who may or may not listen to this podcast, but procurement's KPI isn't the value that came out of the experience that ever gets delivered. Their KPI is like, look, we were paying $100 an hour for this service, and now we got it down to 80. That's their KPI that they can benchmark against. That's the wrong incentive structure to deliver value into the world. I'll take a lot less than 80 right now if we can get compensated only if there's value, you know? And so I think the industry plays a role in agencies, I think sometimes focusing on the wrong things.
100%. I'm going to start a whole award contest called the Results Awards. And so it's not about the graphic designer. It's not about the copywriter. It's about whether or not the award got the job done of the work. And if the work got the job done, you win a Results Award for it.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to do. I'll send you a submission to enter.
Absolutely. But I think those type of, like, I think as a whole, as an industry, we need to look at our incentive structures that how do we get the best out of all the stakeholders, all the partners we have involved, you know? And I don't think we do that very well right now.
No, I would agree. I think as we've talked, and you've talked about your background and the work you've done in such vast and different cultures and the way you've approached getting to know the people you're meeting with, to me, that all brings us back to relationshipnomics, which is what you spend a lot of time focusing on, the business value of the bonds between people. So can you break that concept down for us and explain it to the people?
Sure, as best I can. I'll keep it as simple as I can. The whole thing that we believe is that value gets unlocked through the lens of relationships. I think if you look at the economy, I think today, boy, please forgive me this if I go on too long. It seems too theoretical.
No, you're great. I'm fascinated by this.
Historically, I think a lot of the economy was based on what I would call value capture, right? And value capture being like, oh, look, unexploited territory. Let's go exploit it. So you're capturing value that hadn't been brought into the economic system. That could be, discovering new lands or new minerals or drilling for oil or whatever it is. You're capturing value that's been latent in the system that hasn't been there. Now, as you run out of new value to capture, because the world's a finite commodity and space is a finite commodity, a lot of the economy is based on what I call value transfer. Not really growing it. It's like, okay, I need that money. You pass it from this guy to me, to that guy to me. And it's about value transfer and how do we do that? I think you really want to work ultimately in the space of value creation, right? Where we're absolutely able to create new value by going beyond and going further than what we actually see today. Now, the lens to getting to value creation, in my opinion, is largely driven by relationships. And relationships in a sense, is when you are in a relationship with a client or a partner or a family member, what that does is that unlocks what we call care, right? Care is that extra motivation. And let me figure out a new way. Let me innovate. Let me solve this. Like if your mom has a problem, I don't know how to solve it, but I am going to solve it because my mom has a problem. If that guy down the street who has a problem, you don't know, like, I hope he sorts it out, but you're not really going to invest into getting that done, right? So care through the lens of relationships unlocks innovation and unlocks sort of new opportunities. So when we talk about relationshipnomics, it's really about how do you build a ecosystem that unlocks care, that unlocks therefore innovation and the ability to push forward and create new value.
Fascinating. And so as you lean into that, how do your clients respond to it? I mean, do they get it? Do they see the value of that in how you work? Is it one of those big differentiators for you?
I think it's a differentiator in the pitch. You know what I mean? Like, right? I think people, when you're pitching clients, when you're engaging with someone new, they want to know how you're going to approach the work and why it's a difference. And I think it absolutely is a difference that we have this perspective when we fight for this and we work a certain way. And that way of working is not just about how we work with them as clients and how we invest in them or care for them, et cetera. But it's also how we do that as an internal team and how we also try to bridge them to their consumers to do that. I think that all makes sense in a pitch, and that's all very exciting. I think the reality is, and it's a reality that I'm completely comfortable with, is that at the end of the day, though, you got to deliver marketing results. Like philosophy, methodology, fine. Are we actually delivering results? And I think that's the end game. I don't expect clients to become converts to my sort of marketing or business philosophy. That's not really the goal. The goal is to demonstrate results through that philosophy so that more people want to work that way. And I think that's what we try to do. And I think so far we've been pretty good at delivering results. I don't know how we're doing on the conversion scale, but the results are really ultimately what we want to promise our clients.
Right. Well, and I think, obviously the numbers make the difference, but that feeling of knowing that you're really connecting with people and you're doing something that really matters, that to me feels way better than anything based on the other kind of results.
100%. And it's a lived experience. Going back to what Michael was talking about earlier about the difference between an ad versus a lived sort of how a brand lives. We want, when our clients work with us, we want them to understand and know we care. We fight for your business. When we fight with you over an idea, it's not because we're difficult or stubborn or we're in love with this. It's because we care about this and we want you and we want your customers to have the best possible outcomes. And I think when people believe that, that creates a great deal of trust. Whether they agree with us or not, that creates trust and respect. And that's the lens that we try to do business on.
Right. We've talked a little bit about the culture of working in different areas and the interaction with your clients and meetings and trying to order in restaurants in different areas. What's the difference in the outcome of the marketing in the different areas? And by that, I mean, I'm thinking about US-based advertising. I know when something's really going to hit. Like you can just feel it because you know how it's that perfect cultural reference. It's that perfect little bit of, maybe a little patriotic, maybe a little sarcastic and humorous. And then inevitably it works and the campaign works like we thought it would and people line up and buy the thing that we want them to buy because we understand the end buyer. In getting to know an entirely new group of people, How have you managed to understand what compels them to make the choice you want them to make?
It's fascinating because like, and I say this to people all the time. I think, and forgive me if this sounds weird, like I don't think about that at all. Like I don't think about Japanese people as being a different group of people or people in Taiwan. To me, it really makes no difference whatsoever. And I think, and I'm gonna just say this, and please forgive me if it sounds weird. The reason I don't think about it is I think it's because I'm black. Like I don't understand white people either. No disrespect. Like, do you know what I
No,
mean?
fair.
Like no, but I'm a minority in America. So as a minority in America, you're always thinking outside of your social group. I have to understand, well, how is someone who grew up in Kansas going to react to something? I don't know. I'm from the
Right,
Bronx. What do I know?
right,
So I spend most of my time as a marketer, whether I was in the US or in Japan, not marketing to people just like me, but
right,
to people who are inherently not like me. And
right.
so I think the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes, whether that's a soccer mom in the suburbs of Chicago or a salary man in Tokyo, it's all the same thing to me that says, okay,
Hmm.
it's not about me, it's about them. What do I know about them? How do they actually live? What are the challenges they face? And trying to get input against that and then go, okay, great. Their needs are X, Y, and Z. Do I really feel that these are right about their needs, or am I being biased? Because we all know sometimes you go, well, there are their needs, and you come up with some rational thing that makes business sense but doesn't make human sense.
Right.
But challenging that, go, are these really human needs? Is this person would experience it living outside in, let's say, in Chiba or Saitama in Japan? Is that really the needs that they have? Okay, that really does ring true. Therefore, how well do we meet them? How well is the communication meeting those needs? And just looking at it through that sort of objective lens. And I know no one's 100% objective, but again, the challenge to me is no different than soccer moms in
Right.
Chicago.
Right.
I think it's vital. I mean, I do more writing these days than design. I'm a designer by trade, but
Hmm.
and the writing side of it, I try to tell young designers that young writers all the time. I'm like, you can't. We really push hard on getting to know the audiences of who we're trying to talk to and understanding them beyond the numbers, and what motivates them and what's their pain points, all these different things. And it's easier said than done. But to be able to put on that
Yeah,
hat and say, you know what, I'm a guy. I can only write to guys. Well, I have to be open to other conduits. I have to be able to understand and, like you said, empathize with what's going on outside of that bubble. And that has nothing to do with me or my personality. It's my job is to be able to disconnect from whatever I have in my head and say that doesn't matter anymore. It matters what matters to the people that I'm trying to talk to. And
absolutely.
you think that that's easy to do because it's easier said than done, right? But it's hard, and people have a hard time. I'm amazed at how hard other people have of doing that, of really disconnecting
Sure.
themselves from their own codes, their own whatever. I mean, I'm still who I am, but in advertising, you have to see things from different angles all the time. And we're not talking about major cultural shifts. We're just talking about little things like like somebody down the road or somebody
But
in a different
Michael,
space or different technical side.
think about the number of
Hmm.
times I've walked into a boardroom full of, older white men who are telling me that they don't like an ad campaign that is geared towards a buyer of their business's products and services, and that buyer is a 14 to 23-year-old girl, woman, female.
Yeah.
Don't talk about my dad that way. That's not nice.
They did. Most of them did actually look a lot like your dad. And so, Cairo, I appreciated your answer so much because I hadn't thought about it from that perspective. And I didn't think it sounded weird at all. I thought it sounded very
Hmm.
insightful. And I'm in a different situation than you are, but I often am selling to farmers or men or
Absolutely.
urbanites. And I am none of those things. And so
Hmm.
I think you make a great point of you have to walk in those shoes every day in your real life. So of course you're able
Hmm.
to do it in your work life.
Yeah, I think, and I'm not going to tell you I do it perfectly, right? Because no one does. But
Right.
I don't feel daunted by it. That's the biggest thing that I
Right.
think people find surprising. Like, oh, you've got to do marketing in Japan, but you're from New York. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't intimidate me in that sort of way. And you have to do it for Japan. And I think Michael, the point Michael is making is 100% right. Is that it really isn't about me. So long as I go into that with that knowledge, like my first job that I worked in, I was like a secretary, admin assistant for this in a small marketing company, right? And we had a little marketing team for our own internal work, and I wanted to move from being the admin assistant to doing more. And I was talking to one of the directors at the company. I'm like, how do you get into marketing? Like, what's really important about it, right? And the words that he told me, I think, still stuck with me. It's like it's just empathy. It's just can you consider one, how the person you're reaching out to, what they need, what they feel, how they need to be communicated with. And I think that the inability to empathize makes a poor marketer. If you can empathize, I think you can empathize across culture, across barriers. It may take time. You may need more information. I certainly need more information about Saitama than I do New Jersey. But you still have to go, okay, great. Gather that information and go, I get outside of myself, you know?
Yeah. No, I nailed it. Like, there's 5 things you've said that I'm like, okay, that's the headline. Okay, that's how we're going to explain this episode. Okay, that's why people are going to listen. Stop dropping so many pearls, because at this point, the session notes are longer than the session. No,
Okay, I'll be
nailed
careful.
it.
I'll be careful.
No, please stop being so smart. All right, I'm gonna move
Thank
us
you.
into a topic, and it's gonna put Michael into a tailspin, but it has to be asked. So the future of marketing seems to be increasingly AI driven. So how
Sure.
can companies and advertisers and all of us ensure that we don't lose the human touch while we leverage technology?
Sure. Boy, like I'm actually like I get the utility of AI and I get the convenience of it. And obviously I use it in certain capacities like everyone else does to be more efficient sometimes in a range of work that we do. I don't think that is like I don't know. To me, I fundamentally believe, right or wrong, that people connect with people, right? I fundamentally believe that our society, our DNA is we're sort of hardwired to be social animals and to interact. I don't think a machine can replace that fundamental need. I don't think a machine can go, what does Jackie really need? The machine can go, look, based on probability, here's the best mix for Jackie. But a machine can't really do that. I think our jobs as marketers is to always go, well, what does Jackie really need? What does Michael really need? What does an audience member need? How do we connect those sort of dots? Now, you may then, instead of building it out yourself, use an algorithm or an AI platform to actually generate output against that need. But defining that need, looking at the outcomes and saying, well, is that right or not for Jackie, for Michael, whomever? I think that's the magic, right? I think what's a commodity and what will be a commodity is sort of, how do you say? And I say this with no degree of dismissiveness. I got in trouble one time in my company. We were talking about like some analytical work that we were doing. And the client was like, oh, I just need these numbers. And I asked my team, I'm like, well, why do they need the numbers? What problem are they trying to solve? And they're like, I don't know. They just need these numbers. And I'm like, yeah, but we're not computer monkeys. We need to whatever. And so I think a lot, because what I think is in the future, banging out numbers, macking up ads, those all become commodities that can be transferred over to systems. But understanding the problem, interrogating the problem, figuring out how the solution meets the opportunity, that's the human value. Now, if you can, I think you need the skill sets of analytics. You need the skill sets of art and design. You need the skill sets of copywriting so that you can interpret the value, the output against the need. But our proposition, I think, ultimately, as agencies, are still pretty secure so long as we focused on people.
Yeah.
The problem I have lately is, what is that? I'm gonna quote Spider-Man badly. And with great power comes great responsibility.
Sure.
I think AI has a lot of power, and
You're technically quoting the Bible, just to let you know.
is that what that's
Spider-Man
from?
didn't make it
Yeah,
up. Spider-Man was quoting the Bible, but go ahead.
Nice. I didn't know that. Thank you, Jackie.
Yeah, no, I just want you to get your original source material right.
They, well, I'm a man of my age, but they, what was it? No, so like, for example, I'll have a client, will send something out, and then they go feed it to ChatGPT and come back and say, well, look, this is what this said. look, this is what this said. Look at what this said. So I have a writer, one of our senior writers, and she's like about to pull her hair out because she's like, what the hell? What am I supposed to do with that? I'm like, I don't know. Use ChatGPT yourself. I mean, like, I like put your writing through that and see what it says, at least so you're prepared
Yeah,
for what comes back. And it's hard though, because that, it used to be, there was a trust there, but now it's like, well, let me just go verify it myself. Let me take what they sent me and I'm going to run it through there and say, well, wait, what about this? Or what about this? Or what about this? And I'm like, it's hard to keep up with that. It's hard to battle that in a lot of ways.
for sure. But I think that, and I think, what do you say? I think that if you, I'm just trying to figure out the right way to articulate it. I think at certain levels of our work, there are things that can be commoditized, right? There can be
Hmm.
things like literally, if you're doing um, performance marketing ads, for example, and I'm not trying to downplay the art of performance marketing because I've done a bunch of it. I enjoy it. I like the combination of creativity and data and platforms and things like that. But I think that sometimes if you're doing variation testing, you just need to crank out variations, right? And I think that there is an efficiency sometimes to using tools to actually do that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I think if you're trying to create a difference in a consumer's mind, if you want to have a unique voice, if you want to have a unique presence, if you want to distinguish yourself as a brand, I don't think that AI can get you there. It can get you there in certain areas, and there's nothing wrong with that. But where's the space where you want to be differentiated? Like one of the things I really think about, I was talking to a client of mine, an ex-client of mine about this, is you look at retail, right? And you look at, particularly in QSRs and restaurants, you look at all the automation that's starting to happen in in some of these fast food restaurants where, okay, I go up to the kiosk, I punch my stuff in the kiosk, I get my food from the kiosk, I go back. Now, a lot of times the overall brand experience might have been in the smile and the interaction with the customer service person,
My
et cetera,
pleasure.
and eating at the restaurants. Yeah. And some of that now you're losing, right? So from a pure operational efficiency, automating everything, it makes a lot of sense. But where do you run the risk of becoming a commoditized brand where your competitors have the same systems as you, and the other guys have the same experience as you? I think the difference has to be in how you communicate your unique voice to the audience that you feel uniquely passionate about. And I think that is where you need to invest as a brand. You can simplify and be efficient in certain areas, but if you're efficient in every area, then you don't have a brand anymore and you don't have a distinctive proposition, and it's a race to the bottom based on price.
100%. 100%. And I feel like we should just be like, okay, and that's it, because that's the gym. But I have one more question I wanted to ask, and I
Okay,
don't want to miss
sure.
it. So when we talk about, because I think you've said some things around Maslow's hierarchy that really kind of speak to me. So when
Yeah.
you think about rethinking it and where relationships fit into that, can you expand on that?
Yeah. So ultimately, I think, Maslow clearly got it wrong, right? And I don't understand how Maslow got it so wrong because he seemed like a bright guy.
Right.
But like, because I think he has sort of belonging sort of in the third layer up on the hierarchy of needs, right? Like he has like sort of the basic physical needs are at the bottom of the pyramids, which are food, sex, shelter, and those sort of things lay at the bottom. I think the reality is that belonging is the most, and I don't want to say this scientifically, but it is as fundamental a need as anything else. And the reason is you can't get food, sex, or shelter without belonging as a human being. Like you can't, we are completely useless animals by ourselves. Like we'll be like, leave a baby out in the woods is gone in 2 days. It's got no chance. The baby's superpower is that when it looks up at his mom and dad, they're like, oh, and they'll do anything for that baby. That creates a sense of belonging, and that baby, therefore, is protected. But that's also hardwired into our heads on a daily basis, which is why, like, when we feel rejected, our friends go do something without us, kind of stings a little bit, like it literally stings. It hurts because we're hardwired to believe that our survival is attached to others. And because of that, that's why I also believe that's irreplaceable. I think that is currently, unless we evolve into a different type of animal, that's irreplaceable as a need. that humans have. So I don't think you can just automate your way around it. We could all sit at home ordering food or clothing or whatever, and never interact with another human being. We could all work remotely, but we're not going to be very happy about it. Because one of the things I think is really interesting about technology is technology has allowed us to take care of our physical needs through belonging, because we're all connected, whether we see another human being or not, right? We still get the benefit of human society and being connected to human society that way. And so we think we can survive without that level of state of interaction. But I think emotionally, it doesn't quite work, which is why you see higher rates of depressions in new generations as they're addicted to social media and smartphones, because they're not interacting with each other the same way. Right. So I think, and I also think that brands have a great opportunity to tap into that, right? To offer people, to bring people together, to sort of create a sense of connection, like brands like Harley Davidson, where people rally around the flag and I'm one of y'all. That means something. Or Nike does that a bit, or even Apple used to do that, where it feels like you're a part of something. I think people just need that.
Mm-hmm. Well, to that point, because I talk a lot about this, but I come at it from a different angle. So I love the Maslow's piece. That's so smart. I was a high school and college debater, and so we talked about Maslow's hierarchy a lot. And so I always think about it from the perspective of humans are a herd species. We travel in packs. It's how we are safe. It's just like animals. Yet in business, if you can't find a way to stand out, if you always blend in, then you can't be chosen.
Sure.
And so, because I think you've got to look at it from both angles. So yes, as humans, we need the connection in the community, but in business, we've got to look different and sound different and be different. Otherwise, why do you exist?
100%. But even in that, because I don't think that's contradictory to the belonging aspect or the herd aspect, because you still have to have followers. You have to stand out, but you have to be part of a community. You have people believe in you. You stand out too far and you're out on your own, that guy's just a weirdo, like, and it becomes a problem after a while.
Right. Oh, full circle. Oh, so good. Cairo, I'm looking up and thinking, surely it hasn't already been an hour. Surely we just started 20 minutes ago. And yet it has been, but I have another 50 questions I could have gone through. I always plan extra just in case Michael drops the ball and doesn't carry his weight. You have to be prepared with extra questions. Okay, so I think you've been brilliant and insightful, and I know the people that are listening are going to want to know how to get more from you and of you. So please tell them where to find you.
Well, easiest way is just go to our company website. It's relativ without a e.com. So RELTAL. Help me out here.
ATIV.
ATIV. Thank you. I don't know.
Michael will edit this part for you.
I got stuck. No, it's okay. Leave it in. It's fine. I'm an idiot from time to time. It's good for people to know that. But relativ.com, you can go to our website, relativ without the E. Obviously, we're also on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn just under Cairo Marsh. Cairo Marsh itself will work as well. Or on Instagram and social media. You'll be able to find me and love to talk.
Awesome. Awesome. Like you, I also have a name that's not very common. And so I would imagine every time you get a new social media platform that comes out, you're able to get your name as your handle pretty quickly. There's not a lot of Cairo Marshes out there.
Exactly. If I go with the full name, I haven't seen another one yet. I see an occasional Cairo, and that kind of bothers me because I'm not used to that even.
Right.
But yeah.
I know we're wrapping up goodbyes. I had a quick question though, because I'm curious. Your personality, obviously. I mean, you're well spoken. How do you manage your own personal brand with your company's brand and manage the time between the two? Is there a thought process that goes in it for you?
It's a thought process I'm still thinking about, to be completely honest. I think I haven't done as much around my personal brand as I would like, to be honest. And I think maybe that's something I'm going to try to do more of going forward. I think one of the things that I really wanted when we started this company is I didn't want this company to be about me, right? So I didn't name the company Cairo Agency, which isn't a bad name, actually. There's an agency in Brazil called Cairo. But I didn't want it to be limited to who I am, right? I want it to be around the principles of what it was. So I think I've maybe in some ways have deliberately sort of understated or promoting myself or thoughts like that, so that it's really focused around what the company does. And I'm probably still figuring out that balance, to be honest.
I think everybody is. It's kind of a struggle. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. All right. So I hope everyone goes out and follows you and helps you build your personal brand as you continue to drop these pearls of wisdom. And for anyone who has questions for us, you can always reach out. Cairo, thank you for your time. You were so insightful, and this was a delight.
No, Jaci, Michael, I really appreciate the opportunity to be on. This was a lot of fun. And I suspect, Jaci, even if you went to Japan, the wit might still translate.
Oh, I
It
hope
might
so.
be okay.
I hope so. It's my one superpower. I need to keep it close.
Cool. Thank you guys very much.